Y&R Spoilers reveal chaos at Nikki's birthday party with the appearance of two unusual guests. Nikki's birthday party took place at Genoa City's most luxurious hotel, where warm yellow lights covered the gorgeous evening gowns and the luxurious laughter of powerful figures. None of the guests could have expected that the intimate, glamorous atmosphere would be broken in just a short moment by the unexpected appearance of two people no one wanted to face, Tucker and Aristotle Dumas. Rumors about Tucker's recent moves had been buzzing in the business world, but no one thought he would be so bold as to dare to appear publicly at such a solemn event, especially when he was accompanied by Aristotle Dumas, a character shrouded in mystery and half-truths. As soon as Tucker and Dumas entered, curious, wary, and even panicked eyes began to sweep across the room. Some people whispered, others fell silent. The cheerful atmosphere of the party was drained in that short moment like a cold wind blowing through. A thick tension was clearly felt, as if everyone had a premonition of a great storm about to break out. The presence of Aristotle Dumas, who was rumored to own a series of companies in Los Angeles, caused a stir because he had never appeared publicly in Genoa City before. With a neat black suit, sharp eyes, he moved with a rare confidence and power. No one really knew what his purpose was, only that Aristotle's every step seemed to spread invisible danger to everyone standing nearby. Tucker was already too used to cold gazes, but Aristotle's presence made him wary. Although the two appeared as a pair of mysterious allies, no one was sure if there was a connection of power, interests, or other dark calculations between them. Those close to Nikki began to frantically signal each other, seeking confirmation of what to do next in a situation so rare that no one had anticipated it. In another corner of the banquet room, Amanda Sinclair suddenly appeared, attracting everyone's attention with her confident appearance and the demeanor of a successful lawyer. Her return after a long absence not only surprised the media but also raised countless questions. Information leaked from internal sources said that Amanda had been chosen by Aristotle to represent her in important transactions with the Winters family. This made many people suspicious of the true motives of the boss from California. Amanda, who was considered one of the sharpest and most unconquerable lawyers, also faced the biggest challenge of her career when she was forced to balance her professional ethics with the pressure and offers that were hard to refuse from a powerful force like Aristotle. Her appearance, whether intended to appease the Winters family or not, failed as soon as the atmosphere at the party became tense due to the hidden messages that Aristotle continuously sent out. The intellectual game that Aristotle initiated was like a magic show. No one could clearly understand what his true goal was, but it was known that everything Aristotle did had many hidden meanings. Not only did he choose Friday the 13th, which was considered unlucky in the West, but he also deliberately used the metaphor of the Wizard of Oz, making everyone think of the absolute power of a person behind the velvet curtain, manipulating everything, but no one really saw his true face. Hidden letters, ambiguous conversations, winks, gestures and meaningful wishes appeared continuously throughout the party, making the already heavy atmosphere even more mysterious and unpredictable. It felt like everyone, from the veteran businessmen to the Newman family members, were caught up in a game of chess that they were not the ones leading. Aristotle's every move seemed to have been calculated in advance. He was not simply showing up for the sake of it, but rather probing, observing, and recording each person's reaction. His eyes lingered a little longer on Victor, the man who had once been considered unstoppable. Meanwhile, Nikki, the host of the party, clearly felt the vague but present threat. She knew that if she could not control the situation, everything would turn into a huge media scandal, not only damaging the family's reputation but also affecting a series of shareholders and longtime business partners. The birthday greetings suddenly became bland, the polite handshakes now turned into defense, vigilance. Everyone was afraid that even the slightest mistake would become a weakness for Aristotle to exploit. The party continued in a heavy atmosphere, with all eyes constantly following Aristotle, Tucker, and Amanda's every move. Small conversations in the corners of the room were constantly interrupted by cryptic text messages, secret phone calls, and inquiring glances. People began to question Aristotle's true connections to the big corporations in Los Angeles, and why he had chosen Genoa City for such a challenging launch event. Although information about Aristotle's past was limited, some shady relationships with big businessmen in California made everyone wary. Some even believed that he had successfully manipulated many major markets on the West Coast, bankrupting his competitors overnight. The climax of the party was when Aristotle, with his gentle but powerful demeanor, stood up to speak. He did not say much, only shared a few things about the importance of trust and control, emphasizing that every big game requires people who dare to think big and do big. Those words, although not directly pointing at anyone, were enough to make many people look back at their own positions, ambitions, and weaknesses. When the speech ended, Aristotle only left a mysterious smile, winked at Amanda and left the auditorium in the surprise, curiosity, and anxiety of everyone. After that party, Genoa City was no longer as peaceful as before. Everyone carried in their hearts an uneasy premonition of a storm of power, hidden conspiracies about to explode and the terrifying presence of someone who stood outside all the usual rules of the game. Amanda, after a sleepless night, realized that she had just been caught up in an unprecedented game, where law, love and loyalty were just small pieces in the hands of a force too great, too unpredictable. Tucker and Aristotle, though they both say it, know that the game has just begun, and that the smallest mistake can cause an empire to collapse in the blink of an eye. It is this suspense, tension, and fear that has brought the young and the restless into a whole new chapter, where mystery, power, betrayal, and intelligence collide violently, leading to a series of tragedies unprecedented in the history of Genoa City. The atmosphere at Nikki Newman's birthday party was initially bustling and solemn, with laughter and congratulations filling the luxurious space of the hotel lobby. The guests tried to forget their daily worries and immerse themselves in the atmosphere of the important event, where family, work, and power relationships intertwined and blended in every gesture and look. Victoria Newman, with a calm demeanor and eyes always directed towards her loved ones, gave her mother respectful congratulations, but at the same time constantly observed Cole Howard, the man who had been her spiritual support during many stormy years of her life. Although she was used to the challenges of life, Victoria always kept a keen sense of unusual things, especially when it came to the health of her loved ones. Cole came to the party with a polite smile, but his deep eyes contained a tiredness that was hard to hide. Throughout the party, he kept himself neat, chatted with everyone, and exchanged old stories with Victoria, but the sudden coughs became more frequent. At first, everyone thought Cole had a cold, maybe due to the change in weather or a little stress, but then his breathing became more and more rapid, his face became pale, and his throat seemed to choke up between unfinished sentences. When Victoria realized that Cole was trembling and trying to hide the discomfort in each breath, she immediately suggested calling 911. However, Cole, who did not want to bother others, insisted that he just needed to lie down and rest for a while, and everything would be fine. Victoria was worried but did not want to attract attention in the middle of a crowded party, so she agreed to let Cole rest in the hotel room, not expecting that this was the moment that marked a big turning point for everyone. That night, the cheerful atmosphere was soon overshadowed by anxiety as Victoria repeatedly checked on Cole, discovering increasingly obvious signs of abnormality. His skin was cold, his breathing was getting weaker, and his coughs seemed to last forever. Despite her efforts to reassure herself, Victoria could not shake off the vague fear of something more serious than a cold. She spent the whole night awake, caring for Cole, silently praying that it was just a worry, that everything would be back to normal by morning. However, the dawn did not bring any positive signs. On the contrary, Claire Grace Newman, who had always been attentive to the slightest changes in everyone, was the first to realize that Cole's condition was clearly deteriorating. Meeting Kyle Abbott in the hotel hallway, Claire could not hide her worry when she told him that Cole looked more tired than ever, his fever was high and his cough was more severe, he could not even sit up by himself. These unusual developments quickly put the whole family on alert. Victoria, with her motherly instincts and a woman who had experienced much pain, could no longer maintain her usual calm. She called the family doctor and requested a general examination of Cole that morning. When the doctor arrived, everyone was gathered in the small room, their faces showing obvious tension. Within a few minutes of examination, the doctor realized that this was not just a common flu. The signs of respiratory disorders, physical weakness, and unstable vital signs made it impossible for him to hide his seriousness when talking privately with Victoria. He suggested that Cole be taken to the hospital immediately for further tests, while emphasizing that the family needed to prepare mentally for the worst possible situations. This information was a huge shock to Victoria. She had always been strong in the face of adversity, but this time, when she thought about the possibility of losing someone who had been an important part of her life, her heart ached. She looked at Cole, the man lying motionless, breathing weakly but still trying to smile to reassure everyone, and tears welled up in her eyes. Even though she wanted to stay calm, Victoria could not stop the fear that was silently rising in her heart, the fear that the worst could come true in just a moment. Kyle Abbott, at this time, also fell into an uncontrollable situation. Originally, he only planned to attend the party and meet his loved ones and the family, but the unexpected incident involving Cole left him in a state of confusion and anxiety. Claire, with her special sensitivity and concern, recounted the entire event of the previous night, making it impossible for Kyle to stay out of the situation. He proactively supported Victoria in everything, from taking Cole to the hospital, arranging an ambulance, to contacting other family members so that they could be there in time when needed. During the hours waiting for the test results, Kyle realized that he was not the only one who was confused, but all the relatives in the Newman family were caught up in an emotional vortex of fear, confusion, and helplessness. At the hospital, the doctors quickly conducted a series of tests to determine the real cause of Cole's serious condition. Victoria did not leave his side. Every minute and every second seemed to last forever. She listened attentively to every word the doctors said, remembering every recommendation, hoping to grasp even the smallest glimmer of hope. However, the preliminary results did not bring any positive signals. Instead, the test results showed that Cole was facing a serious illness, with the risk of causing long-term damage to his lungs and immune system. The doctors did not say it directly, but the concerned looks, the instructions to prepare mentally for the worst made Victoria and everyone understand that the situation was really very serious. In the moment facing the risk of losing the person she loved, Victoria realized more than ever the value of every moment together, every beautiful memory that she and Cole had shared over the past time. Images of the past flooded back, from the time they first met, overcoming many storms together, sharing joy and tears, to the rare moments of simple happiness. Victoria felt regretful because sometimes she was so absorbed in her work, sometimes she forgot the simplest things, and when faced with the risk of loss, she could only hold on to the present moment. Claire could not hide her feelings. She silently encouraged Victoria, trying to stay calm so as not to make everyone worry more. She reminded Kyle that family is the most important support in difficult times like this, that no matter what happens, everyone must face it together, overcome it together. Kyle, who was still preoccupied with many thoughts about personal troubles, also realized that the small grudges of the past became meaningless in the face of such a big incident. He devoted all his attention to Cole, not leaving the hospital room for even a moment, trying to give strength to Victoria and the other members. In the following days, Cole's health condition still did not show any positive changes. Doctors continued to research and come up with new treatment plans, while Victoria kept praying, hoping for a miracle for the man she loved. The weary waiting, mixed with invisible fear, made time pass so heavily. Every minute, everyone in the family seemed to live in a state of alarm, just waiting for a small positive signal from the hospital room so they could breathe a sigh of relief. This event also changed many thoughts within the Newman family. Victoria increasingly appreciated the value of each relationship, and was deeply aware of her responsibility to protect those she loved. Kyle learned to put aside personal grudges and open up more to his loved ones. Claire became a strong spiritual support for everyone, proving that sometimes sincere care is the strongest medicine in difficult times. Meanwhile, Cole, despite fighting a terrible disease, still maintained his faith, will to live and love for Victoria and his loved ones. Finally, when everything seemed to be out of control, a glimmer of hope appeared when the doctor announced that he had found the cause of the disease and proposed a suitable treatment regimen. Although they knew the road ahead was full of hardships, everyone was united and determined not to let anyone face their fate alone. It was those difficult moments that brought family members closer together, helping them realize that love, faith and sharing are the greatest sources of strength to overcome all challenges in life. And in the storm of fate, they understood that each day of living, loving and moving forward together is the most precious thing in this world. In the days following Nikki's birthday party, the atmosphere in the Newman mansion suddenly became heavy. All activities seemed to revolve around the name Cole Howard. Signs of Cole's health problems, although he tried to hide them and maintain a calm attitude, quickly caught the attention of Victoria Newman, a woman who was both strong and sensitive and always devoted to her loved ones. In her heart, Victoria understood that she could not turn a blind eye to Cole's persistent coughs, unexplained fatigue, and the unconcealable worry in his eyes. She continuously advised, begged, and even demanded that Cole see a doctor, undergo more in-depth tests, hoping to find the real cause so that she could prepare to deal with it. However, Victoria's determination only made Cole more stubborn. He was a person who did not like to make a big deal out of things, did not want to be a burden or the center of attention for anyone, especially in the context of too many family troubles. Cole tried to avoid all of Victoria's requests, cleverly refused all doctor's appointments, and even tried to reassure Victoria that he only had a mild cold and would recover after a few days of rest. That stubbornness made Victoria both angry and heartbroken, urging her to find every way to protect the man she loved, despite all obstacles, including Cole's fierce opposition. When all gentle efforts failed, Victoria decided to act more decisively. She proactively sought out Nate Hastings, her ex-boyfriend and one of the most talented and dedicated doctors she had ever known. Although Nate no longer practiced medicine and had turned to business, Victoria understood that he would never refuse a request in this special situation, especially when they had a deep, emotional, and respectful relationship. Without much need for words, Victoria only needed to say a few sentences about Cole's condition, about her constant worries, to make Nate immediately agree to be an exception, putting everything aside to help her feel secure. When Nate appeared at Victoria's house, all the old feelings, friendship, love, trust, seemed to revive in both of them. Victoria felt more secure with Nate by her side, even though deep down she knew that Nate's presence was only a temporary solution, not a substitute for a formal diagnosis in the hospital. Nate, with the professionalism and sensitive heart of an experienced doctor, approached Cole with a gentle yet determined attitude. At first, Cole remained defensive, trying to avoid all of Nate's questions and examinations. He smiled politely, claiming that he was just tired from overwork, thinking that he did not need any special care. However, after just a few minutes of preliminary examination, Nate quickly realized that something more serious was going on inside Cole's body. The signs of respiratory failure, the obvious weakening of reflexes, the dazed eyes mixed with hidden fear could not escape the eyes of a seasoned doctor. Nate immediately realized that this could not be just a common cold or flu. His anxiety increased when Cole appeared tired, no longer able to maintain his calm demeanor as before. Victoria stood beside him, observing every expression on Nate's face, clearly feeling every little change, and the fear inside her rose into a fierce wave. Unable to hide it any longer, Nate firmly advised that Cole needed to go to the hospital immediately for a thorough examination and close monitoring. Although Cole still wanted to object, facing Nate's determined gaze and the worry evident on Victoria's face, he could no longer refuse. In his heart, Cole clearly felt the changes in his body day by day, hour by hour, but he chose to remain silent, not telling anyone, especially Victoria and Claire. For Cole, the biggest fear was not death, but helplessness, becoming a psychological burden to the people he loved the most. He did not want to see Victoria in despair, did not want Claire to suffer the shock of loss, so he tried even harder to pretend to be strong, forced a smile,